Imagine sitting in an ordinary classroom. The teacher is explaining the lesson. Some students are chatting quietly. Others are glancing at the clock, waiting for class to end. Then, suddenly, the school's loudspeaker broadcasts a short, terrifying message. Immediate lockdown. Everyone must stay in their classrooms. In a few seconds, everything changes. The doors are locked. The lights go out. The blinds are drawn. And silence takes over the room. The worst part? The students don't always know the reason why. And in some cases, the truth revealed later was far more terrifying than anyone could have imagined. Today, you'll hear 3 chilling true stories about school lockdowns that turned ordinary days into moments of sheer terror. And the third story is so disturbing that, to this day, people still debate what actually happened. It was a cold October morning at a high school in the United States. Classes were proceeding as usual when a staff member noticed something strange outside the main building. At first, she thought it was just a worker performing maintenance. But there was a problem. No work was scheduled for that day. She looked again. A man was walking slowly across the school roof. He seemed to be looking for something. Or someone. The staff member immediately alerted the administration. Meanwhile, the man kept walking along the building structure. A few minutes later, security cameras revealed something even more alarming. He was carrying a long object in his hands. The distance made it impossible to identify exactly what it was. But the risk was too great to ignore. Without wasting time, the administration initiated lockdown protocols. Messages began reaching the classrooms. Doors locked. Windows covered. Students moved away from areas visible from the outside. Within seconds, hundreds of students were in hiding, in absolute silence. Many didn't even know the reason why. Some assumed it was just a drill. Others quickly realized something was wrong. Outside, patrol cars began surrounding the site. Police officers arrived at various entrances to the school. The man remained on the roof. According to later reports, he appeared completely disoriented. At times, he looked down. At others, he gazed at the horizon. No one knew what his intentions were. And it was precisely that uncertainty that made the situation even more terrifying. Inside the classrooms, students exchanged messages in secret. Social media began to fill with rumors. Some claimed there was a gunman. Others insisted the man was carrying explosives. Nothing was confirmed. But fear mounted by the minute. The standoff lasted more than an hour. A full hour of tension. A full hour without answers. Finally, specialized teams managed to approach the man. He was removed from the roof without anyone getting hurt. Authorities later announced that he was not linked to any planned attack. Even so, no one forgot that day. Because, throughout that time, students and teachers believed their lives might be at risk. And it took just one person, in an unexpected place, to turn an entire school into a scene of fear. But the next story was even worse. Because, in that one, no one knew where the threat was. It was shortly after 10 in the morning when the school office received a call. The voice on the other end sounded calm. Almost serene. But the words made blood run cold. The caller claimed to have planted a dangerous device inside the school. And that it would be activated soon. The staff member tried to get more information. But the call was disconnected. The administration immediately contacted the police. In situations like this, there is no room for doubt. Even if the threat is a hoax, it must be treated as real. The lockdown began just minutes later. The hallways emptied. Doors were locked. Teachers were instructed to keep everyone away from the windows. The problem was that no one knew where to look. The threat could be anywhere. In a forgotten backpack. Inside a locker. In an empty classroom. Suddenly, any ordinary object seemed suspicious. Specialized teams arrived quickly. Meanwhile, the students remained in hiding. Some sat on the floor. Others took shelter in storage closets and utility rooms. Time seemed to stand still. At every sound from the hallway, hearts raced. Every footstep echoed like a warning. Every noise seemed to signal that something terrible was about to happen. Outside, desperate parents began to arrive. Information was scarce. The police avoided releasing details. And that caused imaginations to run wild. Messages began circulating online. Rumors grew. Before long, completely different versions of the story were being shared. Some claimed multiple devices had been found. Others said suspects had been seen fleeing. None of it was true. But in times of crisis, fear tends to spread much faster than facts. The search continued for hours. Room after room. Hallway after hallway. Locker after locker. The atmosphere was so tense that even the police officers themselves reported feeling the psychological pressure of the operation. Finally, the answer came. No device was found. The threat was a hoax. But that didn't bring immediate relief. Because another question arose. Who made the call? And why? The investigation took weeks. Authorities discovered that the person responsible was a young man who had never imagined the consequences of his actions. He believed he was just playing a prank. A prank that mobilized dozens of police officers, terrified hundreds of students, and left an entire community in a state of shock. The case served as an important reminder. Sometimes, there doesn't need to be a real threat for the fear to be completely real. But the next story involves something very different. Because, this time, there was someone armed. And he was close. Very close. Near a school located in a wooded area, an ordinary morning was about to turn into a nightmare. It all began when a resident called the police. He reported seeing a man walking among the trees. So far, nothing unusual. The problem arose when he noticed the individual was carrying a long gun. A patrol unit was dispatched immediately. As the officers headed to the scene, they received worrying information. The man was moving in the direction of the school. He was still a considerable distance away. But no one was willing to take any risks. A lockdown was initiated without delay. Inside the school, few knew what was happening. Teachers received quick instructions. Lock the doors. Turn off the lights. Keep everyone away from the windows. Moments later, silence fell over the classrooms. Outside, police began searching for the suspect. The terrain was difficult. Dense trees. Narrow trails. Blind spots everywhere. Tension mounted with every passing minute. Inside the classrooms, students waited. No information. No answers. Just waiting. Some sent messages to their parents. Others watched their classmates, trying to guess what was happening. Later, many would say that the silence was the scariest part. Not knowing. Not understanding. Having no control. Meanwhile, search teams advanced through the woods. Hours passed. No sign. No movement. No confirmation. Then, something happened. One of the teams found fresh footprints. They led into a denser part of the woods. The officers followed the trail. Tension rose with every step. When they finally found the man, they discovered something completely unexpected. He wasn't planning to attack the school. It was a hunter who had gotten lost in the area. The weapon was legally owned. And he didn't even know there was a school nearby. But just imagine it for a moment. Until the truth came to light, hundreds of people believed a potential gunman was roaming near the school. Parents were terrified. Teachers were tense. Students remained in hiding. All of this because no one could risk waiting to find out the truth. Perhaps that is exactly what makes these stories so terrifying. It isn't just the threat. It's the uncertainty. When a lockdown occurs, no one knows if they are facing a misunderstanding, a false alarm, or a tragedy about to unfold. During those minutes, or even hours, any possibility feels real. And the human mind tends to fill in the blanks with the worst imaginable scenarios. That's why, even when the situation ends without casualties, the emotional scars remain. Many students who have lived through lockdowns report remembering exactly where they were, what they felt, what they thought, and who was beside them. Because these are moments when time seems to stand still. Moments when a simple announcement over the loudspeaker completely changes reality. The 3 stories you heard today ended without tragedy. But not every case has had the same outcome. And that is precisely why schools around the world take every alert so seriously. It might seem like an overreaction. It might seem extreme. But when the safety of hundreds of people is at stake, ignoring a single sign can come at too high a price. The truth is, no one wants to find out too late that the threat was real. And perhaps that is the most terrifying lesson of these stories. Danger doesn't always appear when we expect it. Sometimes, it emerges in a simple phone call, in the presence of a stranger, or simply in someone spotted in the wrong place, at the wrong time. And in that moment, no one knows how the story will end. If you enjoy stories of mystery, suspense, and events that defy logic, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications.